Williams. Veers left. Pulls up, looking for the lead, and got it. Jalen Williams, 2 seconds, 111-109. Now SGA, probing, piercing, spinning, hanging for the lead, and SGA knocks it down. The Thunder finally get the defensive stop, and SGA puts them in front.
I'm Kenrich Williams. You're listening to Topic Thunder.
And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Top Thunder Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Huntsinger at Thunder Chats. We are part of the B-League Network, and this podcast is brought to you by the good folks at FanDuel. Guys, the Thunder are riding a high. We were in a closer game than we expected last night against the Pistons. Robbed of just an absolute magical moment for the clutch player of the year and also MVP. But the Thunder was able to get it done. Shai was able to put together an awesome run. And, we look ahead to the Lakers on Thursday. We're going to talk about all that and more with our guests. So without further ado, let's get into it. Joining us today, hailing originally from the state of Texas, this man is the Thunder beat reporter for the Oklahoman. Co-host of the Thunder Buddies podcast, goes above and beyond to chase a story and has a silky smooth jump shot. Ladies and gentlemen, he is not the pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Please welcome, straight off the beat, Justin Martinez.
What an intro, man. I appreciate it. You even sauce it up a little bit with the silky jump shot. I don't know if I got that, but I appreciate that. But no, man, happy to be on the show. First time, super excited about it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, for sure, man. Yeah, no, hey, you're selling yourself short. I think you only shot one shot that one game, but it was the game winner. So it's like, I've got to give credit where it's due. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about, that whole basketball experience throughout the podcast. But yeah, Justin, very excited to have you on the pod. Obviously this is your first year on the beat. Kind of taking Joel's spot where he went over to the Athletic. You've been at the Oklahoman, we'll talk about that. But excited to have you on the pod, man. We've had Joe, we've had Joel, so you're just next up, you're next man up. So let's go ahead and get started. Whenever we have somebody on the pod that we haven't had, we like to just kind of have a little background for the listeners that don't necessarily are locked into how you got here. How you got your fandom and whatnot. So first question, man, let's go back to the basics. What first drew you to the game of basketball?
Yeah, so I grew up a pretty spoiled basketball fan. Grew up in San Antonio. I know Spurs, not really a popular team amongst the Thunder fan base. But yeah. I will say the big three era with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. I grew up just loving those teams. Very Thunder-esque in the sense that, fundamental basketball, team basketball, unselfish play. Obviously – Sam Presti coming from that organization as well. So that's kind of what got me into it, and I just haven't looked back since then.
All right, yeah, we're definitely going to be talking a little bit. I have some Spurs questions throughout the pod. But, all right, so we know you got into basketball. That all makes sense. Even the biggest Spurs hater at this point, could admit back in the day, the ball movement was beautiful back when it was Tony and Manu and Tim Duncan, and then you even have the Boris Diaws and the Patty Mills and whatnot. Good times. Oh, we got Chin Hong in the chat saying Wemby sucks, but also yay Justin. So shout out. Yeah, if you guys have anything you want to say to Justin in the chat, fill it up there. But yeah, so we figured out, what drew you to basketball, but what first made you want to get into writing? Because it's one thing to like basketball, but there's many ways you can be involved in the game. What drew you to writing specifically?
Yeah, I feel like most people, they grow up wanting to obviously play in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I realized very quickly that was not going to happen for me. My jump shot is not as silky as advertised. So very quickly realized there wasn't much of a market for a 6 foot power forward slash center. So that didn't work out, and just really fell in love with writing. My mom is an English teacher. So, she got me into reading and writing. I grew up I was in middle school watching basketball games and watching the post-game press conferences and just using those quotes to write little fake articles and stuff. I just always fell in love with writing. That's kind of what I wanted to do, is just cover the NBA. So first year going to do it full time. It's been, super grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, man, that's awesome. Like you said, those who can't do, it's usually the saying is teach, which is funny because your mom is a teacher also. But, it's cool that you was able to incorporate, two things in your life together and make a career out of that. So yeah, kudos to you, man. But hey, as you mentioned, you were from San Antonio. you're now residing in Oklahoma. You're covering the Oklahoma City Thunder. How did you go from the big state of Texas to the Panhandle state of Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, not a very long trip if we're just talking geographically, but it was a pretty long journey. Actually, I first moved to North Dakota coming out of college. It was my first and only job offer that I got out of college was a high school reporter in Minot, North Dakota, which is maybe like 30 minutes from the Canadian border.
Man.
Yeah. So I had to pay my dues early on. Did that for a year, went to New Mexico, covered New Mexico State athletics for 2 years, and then came to Oklahoma where I started off as the Sooners beat writer or co-beat writer with Ryan Aber, who was on the beat at the time. And yeah, just that whole time it kind of like helped out with Thunder coverage just every now and then. And then eventually was able to become the full-time beat writer. So bit of a journey, took about 8 years to finally become a full-time NBA writer. But yeah, that's kind of how I got here.
The grind never stops, man. It's funny you say, how long were you in North Dakota?
It was only 10 months. Yeah. I wasn't going to stay any longer, to be honest.
I was about to say, I don't think I know anybody who's ever even been to North Dakota, let alone lived in North Dakota. So that's awesome. A little bit of trivia, to add to your, like, what states you've been to in the world. Spent some time in New Mexico back when I was in I was like a freshman in high school. I think we did like a mission trip over there. Albuquerque, good area.
Yeah. Short drive to Las Cruces. It's not too far, maybe like an hour and a half. So yeah.
They had is New Mexico State, is that the Lobos or is that just New Mexico?
Yeah, so they get confused all the time. University of New Mexico is the Lobos, that's Albuquerque. And New Mexico State is Las Cruces. So that's like South New Mexico. It's like real close to the Texas border to El Paso. Gotcha. Whereas Albuquerque is like up top in the state. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's fair. Yeah. I just remember back then I was like, I'd never heard of the Lobos. I was like, that's a really cool, mascot. But anyways, I mean, hey, let's transition into Thunder basketball. We don't got to talk about New Mexico anymore. Let's talk about arguably the best player in the world. We'll get your opinions on that here in a little bit, but just blanket statement, you're on the beat, you get to sit up front there with like Tim McMahon, behind the coaches in the national televised game. What is it like to be able to experience Shai Gilgeous-Alexander play basketball on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like never a dull moment when you're watching a player who's that elite of a talent. But to be honest with you, the thing that I kind of appreciate the most is actually like just talking to him and like just hearing his mentality. I really enjoy hearing people talk about things that they have dedicated their life to and are great at, like who are as good as it gets at what they do. And he's definitely that, just his mindset about like constantly trying to get better. The confidence that he has, even through like shooting slumps, to play through that, the ability to kind of just take whatever the game gives you. Like those all sound cliche, but it's easier said than done. And he really just like does all of those things. And practices what he preaches. So that's kind of the thing I enjoy the most, is just getting to kind of learn a little bit about like, just how his mind operates on top of obviously all the highlight plays that he has every single game.
Yeah, man, it's crazy just how like even keel he is. Like you said, like through the ups and downs, highs and lows, like what have you. Like the Knicks game the other night, he was like 5 of 15 going into the fourth quarter, and it just like he scores 10 straight points like as soon as he checks back in. Like just an absolute machine, hitting game winners in like 3 consecutive games, basically, even though everybody in the arena knew that it was going to him. Like he's just it's crazy to see. Like honestly, like obviously he was really good last year. Like he was MVP, arguably like top 3-2 player in the world. But like to see him like continue to elevate his game, and that's been a staple. That's been something he's done like going back to high school. I live in Kentucky. I'm a huge Kentucky fan, so I followed him even like in high school, through like recruiting and into college. But the fact that he was able to improve off of last year is one nuts, but also shows me like as crazy as he is now, he's going to try to improve even more. So it's really cool, obviously, to see that that type of guy play, but it's also cool to see him as the leader of your franchise, just because like leadership runs from the top down, and like whenever guys like AJ Mitchell or somebody like that, seeing how hard Shai's working and how hard he's going at his craft, it makes them want to try that much harder. Do you see that in the locker room, like, like the top down thing?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, AC Alex Cruz had a quote earlier in the season about how, like, there's like the dog days of the season where it'd be natural to kind of like in a random practice, maybe not be, giving your full effort and stuff. And like he was saying that Shai's the guy who's telling guys to guard him harder. Like he's kind of just always looking to up that intensity, set the standard. And yeah, the rest of the guys really do follow suit. Like I think it really is an example for all these guys, even like new guys coming in, like Jared McCain had talked about how like that was one of the guys that he was the most excited about being around, is just seeing how Shai operates. So yeah, it definitely does have a trickle down effect to the rest of the team.
Yep, I love that. And we talked about some of the clutch moments that he's had. Does it, like, you're right there, like you're like right like their floor level, like seeing it in real time. Do you ever feel like whenever he's taking these shots, even if they're contested, wide open, whatever, like in these clutch moments, do you feel like he's going to miss, or like you feel pretty confident it's going in?
Yeah, it's funny. So one of the parts of my job is as soon as the final buzzer sounds, I have to send in a takeaways article. So like as soon as the buzzer sounds, that's in. And when it's a close game like that, you have to write 2 articles at once, one in case OKC wins, one in case they lose, and you work on both at the same time. So that way you can send either one in. And I always find myself just naturally like kind of working more on the one in case OKC wins, because you kind of have gotten to a point now where you just assume that he's going to like deliver in those moments, and OKC as a team will deliver in those moments. Obviously, you got to work on the article in case they lose, just in case. But more times than not, it tends to be the former. So yeah, I do find myself just kind of naturally expecting him and the team to kind of pull it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's it's crazy to see. So like, what was it, the Celtics game? You were pretty down to the wire, and then you was able to put out the lose article.
Yeah, you gotta improvise every once in a while, but yeah, obviously it doesn't happen too often. A lot of times it's that win article.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, this past since All-Star break feels like we've been in a lot of clutch games. So you've been down to the wire a bunch this last 3 weeks.
For sure.
All right. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So of all the crazy moments that have happened for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I promise we'll talk about other people besides Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but what was your favorite moment as an observer? Because people don't realize, like, as media, like, you're not supposed to like react, like even if you're a visceral basketball fan, even if you're not a Thunder fan, like you're seeing Shai do ridiculous things, like you have to like be calm, cool, and collected. Like what was something that he's done, or like your favorite thing that he's done that's you've wanted to kind of like lose yourself in the moment?
Yeah, that's a good point, because obviously, as a reporter, the job is to be impartial, not like actively rooting for any of these things to happen, but you can definitely appreciate just good basketball when you see it. I think the one that comes to mind for me first is the second game of the season against Indianapolis, or against Indiana. Because we talk about how you expect him to come through in those big moments. He did it at the end of regulation. He missed that potential game winner. At the end of the first overtime, he missed another potential game winner. But then at the end of the second overtime, he was able to ultimately close it out. And so in a way, it was like a different Shai game that he wasn't able to deliver at first. But then it ended up being like the typical Shai game where he still found a way. So I think that's kind of the one that sticks out to me the most. He had a quote after the game where he just said, like, I'm going to get it right eventually, and that's kind of just like his mindset, is that, it might not happen right away. There might be some ups and downs. But that was still a game where he was ultimately able to pull it out. Had, I believe, a season high. I think it was like 55 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the one that sticks out to me the most. Yeah,
that was a crazy couple games to start the season, man. Was it double overtime?
Yeah. So it was OT against Houston, and then double
just OT.
Yeah, against Indiana. So my first 2 games as the Thunder Rider was they threw me into the deep end on those. So I was writing both articles, So
yeah, absolutely. I gotta have both hands going on 2 different screens.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so hey, We got to bring it back up. You said you were a Spurs guy. Obviously, Wemby, kind of made his case to the media. That's how I'll put it. He's had a great month. Like, I'm not taking that away from him. He's been an awesome basketball player, of course. But Shai's, kind of as a collective, he's still the betting favorite. As we said, our sponsors FanDuel right now. FanDuel has him at the minus 450 to be the favorite. Wemby's behind him at like plus 350. So it's not as stark as the minus 2,000 that we saw a couple weeks ago, but still a pretty good favorite. Is Shai your MVP if you had a vote at this point, or are you feeling the Wemby hype?
Yeah, I don't have a vote, so this is all just hypothetical. Obviously Wemby's done a lot of great things. He was able to make his case, and I thought he brought up some good points. That defensively, that's one aspect that tends to get overlooked with this award. He's obviously as good as it gets on that end of the floor. He has the wins over OKC. His offensive impact, I don't think you can really just quantify it with like points per game, which is something people tend to do. But at the end of the day, I would still go with Shai. Personally, if I was a voter, I would really heavily consider the team success. And obviously San Antonio's had a lot of that, but we're still talking about the guy who's leading the best team in the NBA, who had his All-NBA co-star J-Dub only play, I believe it's 31 games this season. And he's kind of been that source of consistency for the team. He's not as good defensively as Wemby, obviously, but he's still a good defender as well. And then he's got all these extra things on top of it. Like he's got the big time moments with the clutch shots. He's got the big time wins over guys like, Nikola Jokic in Denver. He's got the historical aspect with the Wilt Chamberlain record and the efficiency and how little he's turning over the ball this season. Like, I just think he checks off all the boxes for me. So he would be my MVP, but Wemby's definitely made it close for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going with Shai as well, but I do think that it's a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not if, that Wemby is the MVP and probably the best player in the world. I mean, he's just got the conglomeration of like all the skills that you need to be a good basketball player, and he also has like the mad work ethic, just like Shai does. His drive to get better and to be the best. He's just a little bit more loud about it than Shai is. So I did love the Shai quote last night where he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to campaign. I'm just going to let my game do the talking." That's just such a baller Shai quote.
Yeah, I can appreciate both sides of it. Like it was like what I was talking about with Shai. Like I appreciate hearing people talk about things they're great at. I also appreciate people talking about things they're passionate about. So like I really can't knock Wemby for campaigning for it. I think I'm not going to knock Shai for, playing it cool, but there is a lot of that in the NBA where kind of you act like you don't care about something, but you really do. So I definitely don't mind that Wemby's talking about it. But I also respect the approach by Shai. That's kind of just been on brand. He's never been somebody who is going to openly campaign for himself. So I respect both sides of it. But yeah, I think it's going to come down to whoever gets the first seed, honestly. Like I think if somehow San Antonio is able to get that first seed, which I don't think they will, but if they are able to, I probably would go with Wemby. But I think as of right now, OKC is probably going to close out, get that first seed, and I think Shai will get MVP.
Yeah, I mean Thursday will be a big step towards, because we still have the toughest schedule remaining, and I think that's our toughest game technically. I mean, we played the Lakers twice, but the other one's on the second I have a back-to-back. So like depending on how things shake out, maybe we rest some guys then. I don't know. I'm not projecting. I'm just saying, like this game is the one like is in front of us, and it's the one that we got to take care of business, and hopefully we get our guys back for that game, because obviously we was able to take care of business against Pistons, but it was a little bit more difficult than it should have been, and obviously Dub. I mean, we're gonna talk about Dub in a second, but also iHeart makes the offense run so much easier, just with like the dribble handoffs, the screen setting, the offensive rebounds. Yeah, I mean, do you see that as well? Like whenever iHeart's in and out of the lineup, we talk about Dub missing all this time, but iHeart's also missed like almost half the season, I would say. Do you see like a big difference in how the offense runs whenever iHeart's out there and not?
Yeah, for sure. I think even like entering this season, kind of like the common belief was this is going to be Hart's last year. They got a team option on him. There's just no way they can bring him back with Shed and Dub's contract kicking in next year, Shai's contract kicking in the year after that. But I think now it's reached a point where I think pretty much everyone can agree, like this is a guy they have to prioritize bringing back, because he is so important for all those reasons. that you listed. You know, he can take off some of that playmaking pressure. He can take off some of the rebounding pressure. He can just be that force down low. He can be a screen setter, a pick and roll guy. Like, he really does just allow OKC to have so much more optionality. So yeah, I mean, he's become one of those guys that I think OKC definitely has prioritized keeping around.
Yeah, he's also a guy that you don't have like many of that archetype on the roster. Like, I mean, elephant in the room, like if we're talking about like, players that were possibly on the chopping block, this coming off season, if it's not iHeart, it's probably going to be Lou Dort contractually. And love Lou. Like, we don't win a championship without Lou Dort and what he does in Game 5 against the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. But we have Kaysen, we have Caruso, like AJ Mitchell. Like, I was really impressed with what AJ Mitchell was doing last night against the Pistons as a two-way player. Like, we have a lot of different players like in that mold, and it's easier to find somebody in that mold, like the 3-and-D mold, than it is to find a big like iHeart for sure, but iHeart's creation in terms of like his passing and the dribble handoffs, like the sauciest dribble handoff player in the league. So I definitely agree with you on that. Kind of getting back to Jalen Williams. I mean, this just a blanket statement. Obviously, like, he's been back in the lineup, I think 3 games now since his injury. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
three games. Mixed bag. 2 games really good. The other one not so great. If he has a good game, we probably end up winning that game too. But what have you seen from Dub in his return as compared to like earlier this season and also last year? And how much better, or how much easier does the postseason become if Jalen Williams is able to get back to that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it a lot easier for sure. You know, it's only going to get more difficult to repeat as a champion, obviously. And I think he's someone that needs to be playing really good basketball. Maybe not fully himself. It's maybe a little bit much to ask coming off the injuries, but like, he definitely has to be playing good basketball for OKC to be able to repeat. And I think he's been doing that as of late. I think the thing that's really impressed me is just his mentality with the way he's playing. Where a hamstring injury. That's one of those that can really like linger in the back of your mind when you're going out on a closeout, when you're about to like go up for a dunk or something like that. You can be a little bit afraid just naturally that you might re-aggravate that injury. And it doesn't seem like he's been playing with that. It seems like he's been playing freely. I mean, we saw he's been running like at like top speeds, going up the court, getting downhill at will, especially that game against New York. So yeah, I definitely feel like that's been something that he has done very well. And then when it comes to the wrist too, like that hamstring injury really allowed him to kind of have some time to get like rep it out with his wrist, to get some more reps, to get some more rest as well. To the point where now he's saying that like his wrist is the best that it's felt. He feels like he's kind of overcome that wrist injury, and on top of him now being able to get that burst back from the hamstring injury. So it seems like he is ramping up really at the perfect time to get into this postseason run. And yeah, it's going to be huge for them. The playmaking, the shot creating, the ability to run that second unit at times, obviously the defense as well. So yeah, it's going to be a key piece to them for sure.
Yeah, I think obviously like the Thunder are still a great team whenever he's not on the floor. Just like earlier in the season, he was able to maintain the #1 record. And with him, I think we still have a high floor without him, but whenever he's on the floor, it raises our ceiling tremendously. And like 2 areas specifically, you mentioned defensively, like he's one of the only like true 1 through 5 defenders in the NBA, and one of the best guys in turning defense into offense. And that's the second weapon is transition. I've made the statement, and I fully stand on this claim. I think Jalen Williams, whenever he's healthy, is the best transition player in the NBA because of his combination of size, speed, finishing around the rim, explosiveness of getting to the basket. And as evidenced by that Knicks game, like he was talking about, like outran 4 people on the Knicks in that transition. And like this is his 3rd game back coming from hamstring. Like he's he's out there obviously, but like, can you really be like 100% at that point? Like, he's probably still has that in the back of his mind, at least mentally, especially, after seeing what happened to Halliburton in the finals, like firsthand. Like that's always going to be something, but like he's still, just like outrunning a full NBA basketball team. So like whenever he like fully like starts to trust it, and like whenever he's fully back 100%, like where he's to the point where he can play like consecutive days without, having to, sit out for injury management, then yeah, I think it's gonna be scary, man. And I think that, credit to your Spurs. Like, I think that Jalen Williams is going to be a big factor in, if we match up with the Spurs and beating them, because again, the optionality, the versatility of what he can do on the defensive end. And also, the Spurs aren't a team that turn the ball over a lot. So like, we're really going to need, obviously, his positional defense against guys like Wemby. I think that he actually guards Wemby pretty well, despite the size disadvantage, but, in creating turnovers to get easy offense, because the Spurs are such a good defense. So, yeah, I mean, I've been really pleased in Dub and his return. Would have liked a little bit more volume in the Celtics game, but otherwise, I get it. You're working your way back, but hopefully he can go on the Lakers, and we can see him continue this trajectory.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to remember, like, there's some fans who will say, "Oh, well, OKC went 24-1, and then he comes back and they start losing games. So J-Dub is the problem." It's like, you got to understand that, yeah, he's coming back to the same team. Obviously, there's a lot of familiarity with everyone coming back, but like, guys play different roles when he's out. And then when he comes in a way, it almost is a new team for him, because he's trying to learn different like roles with guys who have now sort of developed in different ways. So like, there is a bit of a feeling out process. You definitely have to give him some grace, not just individually in terms of him, getting back to full health, but also, like I said, learning to play alongside these guys. So I definitely don't feel like, he's the reason why OKC lost some of these games and stuff. Like, there's going to be, some growth that needs to happen. There's going to be some growing pains. And I think it's all, going to start to come together now, where hopefully OKC will be able to see it kind of pay off this postseason.
Yeah, no, I'll be clear. I'm not blaming him for the Celtics loss.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody but Shai showed up offensively, so it was not just squarely on him. If we get like half of the production that we usually get from anybody else on offense, we might win that game. So, not squarely on Dub. Going to the next guy in our big three, Chet Holmgren. Obviously, he was an all-star this year for the first time. I'm going to knock on wood. He's been mostly healthy, as healthy as he's been since, he played every game, made a point to play every game in his second season. What type of growth have you seen out of Chet this season compared to what we saw last year?
Yeah, I think, there's still times where you want to see him be more aggressive. I think that Boston matchup is a prime example. But I will say that I think he has shown some development in certain areas whenever he's at the 4 spot alongside Hart. I think he's shown an ability to really capitalize against those undersized power forwards. He's able to shoot over them. He's got that mid-range game working really well for him. And then when he's at the 5 as well, like, obviously there's going to be a hit in the rebounding department when Hart's not on the floor. But I think you really felt it earlier on in the season when Hart was dealing with that calf injury the first time around. And now it's gotten to a point where you're a little bit more comfortable with Chet at the 5, where he's able to hold his own a little bit better. We've seen what he's able to do as like a point of attack defender, a rim protector, to where those blocks just like the averages just shoot up when he's at the 5. So I feel like he's really improved in that department as well. So there's definitely growth. I do want to see, certain times where he can kind of turn it on and be a little bit more aggressive. But I get it. There's only one basketball at the end of the day. And when there's so many guys who are talented on this team, naturally, he's going to lean towards doing some of the invisible work. But overall, I definitely do think there is, some clear improvement that he's made on both ends, really.
Yeah, no, for sure. Offensively, I would say like an aggressive Chet is the best Chet, the best version of Chet. Just not like, looking to chuck or like shoot like 8 threes or anything like that. Just like stay like in the offense, stay in the flow of the offense. Cause like last year, I think that obviously, coming back from injury doesn't help, but whenever he came back, it felt like he was kind of like a bystander in the offense. Like we kind of hit him in the corners while like all the action was going on around him. This year, it feels like, he's a little bit more involved, obviously, but it comes and goes, in different games. And, maybe that's just, some matchups, but specifically like, defensively, I think he's clearly been like the second best defender behind Wemby this year. And, that's something that hasn't dropped off. And honestly, I think has improved even in the All-Star break. And then rebounding, like, I know he's smaller, and I know he gets pushed around a little bit, but like I've been very impressed with his work on the glass. And I know like sometimes the rebounding numbers don't like show up for it. Like it's a lot of just like, battling. And I tweet that a lot. I'm like, Chet is battling like with a flex mode or something like that. But I always appreciate just the battle. But I mean, I remember when we played the Cavs, like like a month and a half ago, and iHeart was out. I'm like, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley is healthy, and he got like 18 rebounds. I was like, I did not see this out of Chet Holmgren, like with no iHeart out there to like also battle on the boards. Like that's a development this year that would not have happened last year. So hopefully that obviously he was, as I said, kind of a bystander in the offense, but was like locked in defensively on the playoffs last year. I hope to see him more involved as we get into like, more games of consequence and, going forward.
Yeah. Because I mean, when he's like impacting the game on both ends of the floor, it really is just a game changer. And it's not even just like the play itself. It's like the energy that it really creates for the team when he's able to get those rejections, when he's breaking up passes, when he's throwing down those alley-oops. Like it really does have a trickle-down effect to the rest of the team for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then the other guy I want to talk about was AJ Mitchell. We mentioned him a little bit earlier, but like going into the season, like preseason training camp, what have you, did the locker room and people around the team anticipate this type of leap from AJ Mitchell, or did it come as big of a shock to everybody as it did us?
Yeah, I think everybody that I've talked to has said that it wasn't a surprise. And I know that's kind of like easy to say. They're obviously going to say that. Yeah, but like I really do believe that really as soon as he got here as a rookie, like in training camp, they realized pretty quickly that he was someone that like they were going to have to make some room for. Even like as a guy who was on a two-way initially, like he was just somebody who came in with a very polished game, with a game that, you could tell that he played at his own pace. He had a good level of composure, obviously an older rookie, but still a rookie nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And then also he bought in defensively, like you were talking about earlier. Like he really has shown that, he's not just able to hold his own out there on the floor alongside some really good defenders. Like he's able to make some real impactful plays defensively. So, yeah, I think that especially coming off last year where he had that injury and was sidelined and wasn't fully able to really assert himself in the postseason. I think the guys on the team came into this year expecting that, okay, he's coming in healthy and he's really going to be able to showcase what he can do. And he's definitely done that.
Yeah, we call him the paint god, not the point god, the paint god, because he's just an automatic paint touch. It doesn't matter who's in front of him. It doesn't matter who's protecting the rim. Like he is getting to the paint, and he's probably going to make it. Like I would say his finishing rivals like that of like Shai and Dubs, just because like he's got creativity, but he's also like he's stocky, like he's built, like he can finish through contact. At the beginning of the season when he was going on this run, I was calling him Baby Brunson, just because I felt like their games like really not compliment each other, reminded me of each other, but also like the trajectory of like whenever Brunson, like from like I think it was like year 2 to year 3 with the Mavericks, like seeing his leap. Obviously, like this is year 2, like technically like year half if you want to like get technical, because he missed so much time in the last season. But it feels like the leap happened over the summer, like not even like during the season or like from years 2 to 3. Like it feels like the leap like happened and it was just here. And like it's to the point where all these national podcasts are talking about like how good of a player AJ Mitchell is, how additive he is, and how much more dangerous it makes OKC. And you talk about a few of the things that the Thunder have improved on even from last season, aside from just like another year of experience and the experience of being in the playoffs, is you have a guy like AJ Mitchell. Like as good as Dub was and as good as Shai was, like we still struggled whenever Shai was not on the floor last year in the playoffs. And now it's not like a perfect situation. It's not as good as having Shai out there for 48 minutes, but like having AJ Mitchell out there is an option and, a factor that teams did not have to deal with then. So very, very excited to see AJ in this postseason run and how he contributes to the title run, because I do think that, that and also the 3-point shooting, disparity, I feel like is very different from last postseason.
Yeah, definitely. I think you brought up a good point that, yeah, like he's someone who can really like set the table for that second unit, and take some of that pressure off of Jada, who obviously usually has to do that, to start like the second and fourth quarter when Shay's getting a breather. Like I really think he's going to be someone who can come through in that department. I think the Brunson comp is also a good one too. I did a story on him earlier this season, and when he was in college at Santa Barbara, went to this facility. It was the P3 Performance Center out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they do like all of this like advanced analytical stuff in order to like project or like find like player comps and stuff like that for college prospects. And Brunson was the guy for AJ. So it's definitely something that you could see just off the eye test, but also just like analytically, you can see it in the numbers too. So yeah, I definitely see a little bit of that of him. We saw obviously him facing Brunson recently, that game against the Knicks. You could just see the similarities, especially with them playing alongside each other on the floor. Not alongside each other, but on the floor together.
Yeah.
You could see that comp for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, talking about the other improvement I made, I mentioned with the 3-point shooting. I mean, Jared McCain has been a godsend for the Thunder. Like, I still don't understand. Like, thanks for selling high, Daryl Morey. Like, a first, like it's the Rockets first, which is I'll admit it's a little bit better of a pick than I thought it was going to be whenever the trade happened, just because the Rockets are just like a train wreck. But that first and a couple seconds for a player that is in his rookie contract in his second year, a guy that was going to be the runaway rookie of the year before he got injured, and the defending champs just get to pick him up for free, basically. And like it was seamless on the court. Like, he had that like first game of like jitters. I think he had a couple turnovers, didn't make a bunch of shots, but like it was the next game he made like 2 or 3 threes. Was the fit in the locker room and like just the acclimation period with Jared as seamless as it seemed to be to everybody, or like, just talk about that.
Yeah, I think it was. Sam has always talked about, and Marcus talked about this too, where the first thing they do is they draft or they bring in people, and then they think about the players. So like they're already coming into it looking at guys who fit that culture, who can fit that locker room. I mean, Jared is a guy who they really looked deeply into on draft night in 2024. Obviously, ended up going with other guards instead, but like this is a guy who they really felt even then fit what they wanted to do. Not just like in terms of on the floor, but yeah, I think that he was somebody who could fit in with the team just on a personal level, and he's definitely done that. Like Mark had talked about how when he came in, when Jared did, they had a conversation where they're saying, hey, like I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially we're not going to work around you defensively. Like you're going to have to come in and hold your own defensively. It's something that he obviously wasn't known for doing at Philly. And I think he really has bought into that, to where he's still going to have his limitations. I'm not acting like he's Lou Dort, obviously. And I think Mark said that too. Like, we don't need you to be Lou. We don't need you to be Kaysen or AC. Like, we just need you to hustle and hold your own out there. And that's what he's doing. And I think he's also like playing within himself offensively too. Like he's taking the shots when they come to him. He's understanding when is the right time to put the ball on the floor. I think he's shown some driving ability, which has been really nice. A mid-range game as well. It's not just a 3-point shooting. And then obviously in the locker room as well. Like, I mean, he just fits the Thunder culture. There's the TikTok dances and stuff like that, but he's just an easygoing, like personable guy. And it already is a really like easy locker room for guys to kind of come in and feel accepted. So yeah, he definitely has done that. It's been a real seamless fit.
Yeah, honestly, like the bump midi, like a guy his size, like, being able to like put a shoulder in somebody, just like Shai, AJ, Jalen Williams, seeing him like bring out the bump midi like this early in his career is like pretty crazy. Like I was not ready for that. And also like his finishing, it's not like up there with those guys, but like he has some crafty finishes. I'm like defensively, the word I use is he's squirrely. Like he's really good at just like getting his hands in there and like just kind of like just doing enough to like throw you off of your rhythm, throw you off balance kind of thing. He gets some steals that way. And like positionally, it feels like he knows where to be. It's just like, getting the mind to communicate to the feet, with his like smaller stature, slower foot speed. But yeah, I've been very impressed with Jared McCain, what he's been able to do for us. And, you mentioned the draft. I had a conspiracy theory, after we made the trade that the Thunder were actually going to draft Jared McCain at 12, but they did not anticipate a player of Nikola Topic's caliber dropping to them at number 12. And they were just like, okay, we have to take him. Like Jared's a great player, but like, this is a guy that many people had going number 1 before he got injured. So that was kind of my conspiracy theory, because he got picked like, I think he got picked like 4 or 5 picks
15,
after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's my conspiracy theory. I'm not informed by Sam Presti, but that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely were interested. Obviously went with AJ, went with Nikola instead, but I mean, they looked at him for sure. He obviously had the workout in OKC as well. He felt like, just talking to Sam, that a lot of some of the Thunderisms, the things that the Thunder likes to say, their phrases, were things that he also kind of preached as well in practice. So yeah, I mean, it was a good fit then. It didn't work out, but he's obviously someone that stayed on their radar, and now it's working out for him.
I wonder if they're still asking their players how many ping pongs can fit in a school bus, like they asked Steven Adams.
Yeah,
I just don't even know, or ping pong balls, not ping pong. Sorry, I don't even know like how to conceptualize that answer. Let's see here. So yeah, I mean, we talked all about the team. Obviously, they've had a great season. The first team to reach 60 wins this year. Still had the 1 seed. I think they're 2.5 games up on the Spurs. Obviously, they hold the tiebreaker. I'm sure you enjoy that. 6 games left in the season, but they've overcome a lot. Like, this has been a much different season than last year. Like, obviously, we had the Chet injury, and like we had some nagging injuries here and there, but we didn't have like a lot of long-term injuries besides Chet. Like this year, like we've had Dub miss chunks of games, iHeart miss chunks of games, like all the way down the list. Like it goes to who was it? I think
AJ
it was
missed time with the abdominal.
Yeah, of course.
Even Shai too. Yeah.
Yeah, like Shai did not miss like a 3-week chunk last year. I think he played like almost 70 games, if not 70 games. Like Kurt Goldsberry was saying a couple weeks ago, like if you were doing like the only players that have like reached the 65 game requirement at that point, and Kaysen Wallace was one of them. And like that's just a testament to like Kaysen is like the only player that hasn't gone through like a huge chunk of injuries for the Thunder this year. So obviously they've had to overcome a lot of clutch games this year. Didn't have like many clutch games at all last season, and that kind of came back to not bite us, but like kind of wake us up a little bit in the postseason. We've got plenty of those in our belt this year. So but obviously a different season. Is the vibe different in the locker room? Not obviously like there's good vibes, but like it's easy to get complacent. It's easy to kind of feel overconfident. Like what's your vibe on the locker room this season compared to last season in pursuit to repeat?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously this is a team that was really young when they won a championship, but they already then felt like they were a little bit more mature than maybe their age suggested. Like it was a team that already kind of handled the pressures of being competitive very well. But it does feel like even then they're just a little bit more seasoned now. They kind of know what to expect now. They've been battle tested. I think something that's really stuck out to me is like I can't even remember him doing it at all last season, but Shai a lot of times in post game this season will describe things as like, we have no choice but to do this. And I feel like they kind of just understand what the non-negotiables are when it comes to winning a championship. Like he knows like these are certain things that we just have to do. And if we don't do it, we can't win a championship. And they only know that because they went through it last season. So it definitely feels like a team that knows exactly what it takes. It knows the target that comes on their back, the pressure, the natural urge to kind of take your foot off the gas and be content. Like they kind of know all these things. And I think that really has helped them as they get ready for another run here.
Yeah, I'll ask you this. This isn't on the sheet. This is just kind of like off the dome here. But obviously, you've seen all these games close up and personal. Mark is a chess guy. Like he's a guy that if he sees something that works, like something weird that he's confident in, he works. So kind of like put it in his back pocket, not really show it too much until like it gets to the playoffs. Is there any lineups that you have seen that has like really worked that we haven't really seen too much of that you think Mark might be saving for the playoffs?
It's a good question. I think one that interests me at least is whenever they've been without Harden, obviously this is just because of injuries, but like I really think that the J. Will and Chet lineup has shown some flashes where like J. Will can really hold his own on the boards now. He's gotten to a point now where he's not just like a guy who takes charges anymore in order to play defense. Like he plays some real defenses and is able to protect the rim. On top of also giving OKC another playmaker, and then some more floor spacing than a guy like obviously Isaiah Hartenstein would provide, especially as of late. Like Jay Will's been shooting the ball ridiculously well. So that's kind of one that's a little bit interesting. Another one that's like a more popular one, but we haven't seen it like a ton, is the Jared McCain, Isaiah Joe bench unit. I just think having that floor spacing and then you pair it with like AJ Mitchell as well, I think that's something that could, even if it's only used in like small stretches during the playoffs, could really like create some real explosive runs for OKC. So there's definitely a lot of these things where, it's kind of one of the silver linings of injuries where you kind of have to experiment a little bit. And to Mark's credit, he's been more than willing to do that. And I think there definitely have been some things that he's noticed where like, okay, even if it's just like small little runs, like we could definitely use this in the postseason.
Yeah, and to your credit, that Chet, J. Will, when they're on the floor together, according to Data Baller, they've played 300 minutes together, and that the offensive rating's only 114.3, so like that's a little bit lower than some of these other lineups, but the defensive rating is 98.2. And they're plus 16.1 net whenever they're on the floor together. And hey, if Jay Will shooting 50% from three, for the rest of the season going into the postseason, like give him all the run that he needs, because like at this point he feels like one of our more reliable shooters. And he's another guy that we talk about iHeart and like the conversations like going into the season about like, oh, he's probably gone. Like I think I even made the point on the podcast like during the offseason, like, how long is Jay Will going to be here? Like, if we were to bring back iHeart, we have Chet, we still have Sorber in the wings. Like people forget about him. Like, is Jay Will going to be the odd man out if we need like a roster spot? And if he's playing like this, if he's, doing a little bit of like that DHO demon, like iHeart, if he's knocking down 50% from three, and if he's, adding to the defense like that, like whenever Chet's out there on the floor, like, I don't know, man. Like we might need to sign Jay Will to a lifetime contract, because he's been nuts recently.
Yeah, and it's a friendly contract too. What is it, like 324, 3 years, 24, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of like the formula for OKC at this point is obviously they're gonna pay the big three, and then the rest of these guys you kind of got to have them on these smaller contracts, some descending contracts as well. Also helps, or just obviously rookie contracts too. So, I mean, he fits that mold as someone who can be like a real high value player, considering like just how much they are paying him.
Yeah, and speaking of Jay Will, we have Matthew in the chat. I think this is Matthew Lines. He says, personally, I think Jay Will is the heart and soul of the Thunder. What are your opinions on that?
Yeah, there's like a lot of candidates for it. I think Jay Will is a great option for it. Just like the energy that he provides. I mean, this guy's like smiling all the time. I mean, whether he's on the floor, not on the
infectious.
floor, on the bench. Yeah, exactly. So like that has a real effect. I think a guy like Kenrich Williams, who is one of the longer tenured guys, someone who just has so much respect in the locker room, could also be a candidate. But yeah, Jay Will is definitely up there.
Feels like anytime Kendricks checks into the game, it doesn't matter how many games he hasn't played, he just produces. Like he's just the consummate professional. Yeah, my pick for the heart and soul of the Thunder is Dub, specifically like at home. Like nobody roused the home crowd up like a Jalen Williams slam. And whether he's barking at the crowd, I don't think he really does that anymore, but like he's definitely yelling like, come on, get up, like getting them excited and getting them riled up. So I'll go with Dub, but I mean Jay Will's the vibes commander for sure.
It's something about those Williamses, man. You got Jay Will, J Dub, Kenrich. They're they bring the heart and soul for sure.
Hey, we got to draft a few more, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're gonna take a break, and on the other side of the break, we're gonna finish up our Thunder questions, and we're gonna get in some rapid fire. We like to end our guest pods on a little bit of a fun note before we get out of here, so we will get to that and more on the other side of this break. And we're back after that break. It was such a good break. We've got Justin Martinez here of the Oklahoman. We're talking all things Thunder. We're about to get into some postseason, some predictions, some rapid fire, a lot going on here. So, Justin, a couple more things on the Thunder real quick. We mentioned Mark Daigneault and his his chess style, coaching style. How Do you feel like covering Mark Daignault challenges you in terms of like your basketball knowledge, and also, how does that improve, I guess, your skills as a reporter?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it definitely makes you want to obviously know what you're talking about. You obviously want to do that out of the way, but like
Yeah,
in order to get like the best possible answers for him, I think you kind of got to like really tap into that basketball mind of his. Because if you can do that, like he'll give you some great stuff. Not that he won't just in like a casual setting, but like he definitely is able to give some really insightful responses if you ask the right questions. So you definitely do want to ask those, but also like it's not even so much as like a challenge because it doesn't come across as like if you don't ask a good question, he's gonna like
yeah,
feel like an idiot. Like he does a really good job of being just professional with everybody. I'm not going to name any names, but we've been on the road before, and there's been some other outlets covering other teams who have asked some not great questions. I think there was one question where someone literally asked him like, "How or what is the key to beating you guys?" Somebody asked him, and I think there would be some coaches who would very quickly kind of call you out for something like that.
yeah.
And Mark is he's such a professional. He's very polite about it. He kind of just made like a little lighthearted joke and then moved on to the next question. Um, so he definitely isn't like this intimidating guy. Like you definitely don't get that sense from him. But yeah, if you're able to ask some good questions, he'll for sure give you some good answers.
I don't know, man. If he was squinting at me like he does the scoreboard and the refs sometimes, I'd be intimidated. I'm just gonna say. My answer is how you beat us is by putting more points on the scoreboard than us. That would be my answer.
Yeah, yeah. I think he said something like that, or just like try hard or something like that. Like
Yeah,
a little joking comment, and that was about it.
yeah. Nah, dude, he dropped such a bar the other day. What was it? Whenever they said, is the standings like elevating your intensity or whatever like that or something like that, and he was like, if you have to have this standings battle to like increase your intensity probably wasn't at a good level anyway. So like,
Yeah,
bars, man. Urgency, not intensity. Yeah, there it is.
yeah, yeah. He's got some good ones for sure.
Yeah. All right, what is the best thing about covering this Thunder team?
Um, so obviously, being impartial, I'm not actively here like rooting for them to win, but I will say to like watching them do what they do. If you're just a fan of basketball in general, you should appreciate, watching something that doesn't always happen. This is a team that could very well be starting a dynasty, could be on some sort of a historical stretch throughout the next few years, like, and has like a historically great player as well, and Shai leading the way. Like, those are certain things that just, regardless of your fandom, like you should just appreciate the moment. And that's kind of the thing that I've really enjoyed the most is just being able to be a part of that, being able to witness that. My job is just to document it, to tell these guys as individual stories. And it's a great story. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that I enjoy the most.
Yeah, you should be writing a book about this, just covering the dynasty of the Thunder, how they won 5 championships back to back to back to back to back. So I'm just saying there's money to be had, Justin.
Maybe one day. We'll see.
All right, man. Yeah, like I said, whenever we have a guest on here, we like to have a little fun towards the end of the podcast. So this is just a little bit of rapid fire. This ranges from serious to basketball to just random in general. So, and you can answer this as quickly or slowly, as in depth as you want to. So,
Cool.
first question: best player to interview.
Ooh, there's a lot of them. I really enjoy talking to Kenrich Williams. He's a great guy to talk to, insightful, personable. But I will say Jared McCain is also quickly climbing that list. He's someone I really enjoy talking to. Got to know him a little bit more during All-Star Weekend. Had a one-on-one interview with him, and he was great. So he's quickly climbing that list for sure.
Okay, I like it. Best away arena to visit.
I'm going to say Detroit. It's a nice arena, a bit of an underrated one. You wouldn't really think about it, but it's a nice arena. It's a good atmosphere, a good team, obviously, creates some good games, and also a very, very good media dining area, which to me, it's the best one in sports. I mean, you can get anything from steak to pasta to burgers and chicken tenders and pizza, and like you can get everything. They got ice cream machines, they've got cookies. So yeah, that's Detroit checks off all the boxes. So that's my favorite.
Sheesh. You're just waiting on the Continental Coliseum to come around. So hopefully their dining will rival that.
For sure.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to throw some shade. The worst away arena.
Man, I love the city, but I'm gonna say New Orleans. The arena is not the best. It's an older arena. It's a not very good team. Obviously, the crowd is not very into it. And I'm gonna go back to the media dining. Wasn't that great? It wasn't that great. I don't even remember what it was. So yeah, it wasn't that great. So I'm gonna say them. Unfortunately,
They didn't have no gumbo for you there.
nothing, man. Nothing like that. Yeah,
Zion ate it all. I mean, hey, you talk about New Orleans, and obviously like not the best arena, and weird like fan base vibes. Expansion, big conversation right now. I think Bill Simmons even made the point on his podcast recently about if expansion's actually going to happen. Like, it's being reported like it's already like a done deal, but like this hasn't been like voted or approved on yet. It's been voted to basically present it as an option. And he brought up like, why should we be expanding when we have teams that maybe they shouldn't deserve a franchise? And like the Pelicans are a team like that. Do you have an opinion on that, or is that like branching in the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough because like obviously there are Pelicans fans who are very passionate
sure.
about this. I don't want to like advocate for them to lose their team. I'd imagine that's a real big heartbreak and stuff. So like you don't want to see that happen, but like that's definitely a team where there's been talks about it. It's a team that has been struggling to find their footing, struggling to develop talent. So yeah, I mean who knows if it'll happen at some point, but for Pelicans fans, let's just say hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if that happens, maybe we get Antonio Daniels back in OKC. Shout out my guy AD. I think Memphis is another team, and the Kings. Those are like a couple of the teams out there. Because why does California need 4 teams? Like, come on, man. Anyways, I digress. Back to it. All right, give me a not well-known flight tip. Being on the beat, you got to fly a lot. So, like, what is a tip of the trade from Justin Martinez?
Oof, I don't know how unknown it is, but something that I didn't really think about just how important it is, and this goes for like hotels too, is just like picking one chain or like airline and just sticking to it and like racking up as many rewards as you can.
Yeah.
So like I've been doing that with Southwest and with Hilton for hotels, and even like Uber rides and stuff. I switched to Lyft because you can actually pair it with Hilton and get rewards that way for every dollar you spend and stuff. Like I didn't know about any of that stuff really. So that's like a really big one, is like you can really rack up stuff if you travel enough just by sticking to like one company. And then even at like the end of the season, maybe you'll take like a free vacation or something. So that's definitely a big tip for sure.
There you go. Reward yourself for all your hard work, man. All right, let's see here. If you could compare your basketball game to anybody on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who would it be?
Oof. I'm gonna say Alex Caruso minus the dog in him is what I'm gonna say. I think I'm a pretty decent defender who can size up, but I don't have that defensive like intensity. I'm very quiet on the court, as you saw. I'm not like trash talking or getting guys fired up. So yeah, I bring the defense, but I don't have that dog in me. So yeah, I'd say that's the comp.
Yeah, Caruso is my comp too. Just because I get hurt, like pretty much anytime I play in Oklahoma, apparently. But shoot, man, hey, I was playing through it though. Like I was a warrior like Caruso.
For sure.
I was making sure that we had 10 in that last game. So yeah, Caruso is my guy. I had Derek White as a comp. There was like a app or something where you could like put all your stuff in. Everybody was doing it a few years ago on Twitter, and that was one of my comps. So I'll stick with Caruso though because he's on the Thunder.
There you go.
All right, let's see here. Taking you into the mind of Mark Daignault, we are matching up with the Spurs. What is the best defensive lineup that we can put out? Let's say it's like final possession. Spurs have the ball. They are down 1. Like what lineup are you putting out there to try to counteract what the Spurs are putting out there?
So OKC's got to get a stop. Here's what we're saying.
Yeah. Okay. So they're up 1 with like, I don't know, let's say like 9 seconds.
Yeah, I'm probably going. I mean, like Shai's obviously not the best defender. I feel like you still got to have him on the floor just in case maybe it leads to like free throws or leads to like any sort of transition thing, I'm going to say Shai, just having him out there. But then I'll probably say AC. I'll say J-Dub, Chet, and then Hart. I think you got to have both 7-footers. And then I'm putting Dort on the bench. I know he's a great defender, but I just think that AC and Dub are two guys who can size up a bit more. So I would have him out there. I'm just mostly going for size as opposed to a guy like Dort, who's like 6'4", 6'5". So yeah, that's the lineup that I would go with.
Okay, I like it. I understand, your point on Shai. I think I might have like Kaysen out there, Kaysen or Dort. Kaysen mainly just because of his quick hands. Like, Dort would be like a better positionally defender, but Kaysen, could maybe just get a steal out of nowhere and that nobody expected. So
yeah,
either way, we got a Kentucky guy out there either way. So
a lot of options.
Absolutely. All right, let's see here. Over under all defensive team members for OKC 1.5.
Oof. I'm gonna say over, and I realize as a guy who I just left off the floor, but I think Kaysen has a case to make it. Leading the league in steals, and maybe I'm just speaking it into existence, but like this is a guy who just as soon as he came in as a lottery pick, by the way, it would have been very easy for him to not want to kind of buy into his role on this team. But he's somebody who's just been very unselfish this whole time. Has accepted where he's coming off the bench. We're starting. He's able to do his thing defensively. And just someone who's never really like commanded or wanted attention to come his way. It'd be cool to see him get an individual award. So I'm going to say that he'll get one, and then obviously Chet as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they both get it. I think that if Alex Caruso played more during the season, I think that he even would have got some shots too. But whenever Kaysen and Caruso are out on the floor together, just wreaking havoc defensively, I call them cookies and cream. Just because, like, for a while we was calling Kaysen the Cookie Monster just because he was so good at stealing the ball. Now Alex Caruso is just obviously the cream of the crop when it comes to defense. So, cookies and cream, the game-wrecking machine is what we called them in the playoffs last year. And we haven't got to really see that tandem much this year because Kaysen's been, like, thrust in the lineup. Caruso's been hurt. You talk about how having Dub back in the lineup, people have been playing different roles and how, having Dub back in the lineup, kind of fixes some of those. One of those things is Kaysen and Caruso coming in off the bench together. And, you've kind of seen it in a couple of those games, how they can, really just flip games with their defense. I compared them to the Bash brothers from the Mighty Ducks and how they can change the game with their physicality. So, very excited to see Kaysen. And, definitely deserving of all defensive team. Flipping it to the all NBA over under still 1.5. Is Chet getting the nod?
I'm going to say that he doesn't, just with it being positionless. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher. Who knows with all the like guys who will ultimately be ineligible due to the minimum game requirement. But I'm going to say that he falls just a little bit short of it. Obviously, Shai getting in there. But yeah, I'm going to say they get just a 1 this year.
Yeah, that's fair. I obviously like Chet's impact is more than the numbers, but sadly that's what a lot of these voters look at whenever they're voting for these things is the numbers. So I understand it. I'm sad about it, but I understand it. All right, over under Shai awards 1. This is not including all NBA. This is just like the individual awards 1.5.
Yeah, I'm giving him the over here. Clutch player of the year, you can give it to him right now. This guy leads the league in total clutch points, despite playing, I don't know how many minutes less than whoever it is in second. I think it's Tyrese Maxey, maybe. I think off the top of my head.
So.
But yeah, this is a guy who, just far and away the best closer in the game right now. And then MVP, for all the reasons we talked about earlier in the show, I just feel like he checks off all the boxes. So I'm going to say he gets 2 of them this year.
Yeah, if they would have counted that shot last night against the Pistons, like they should have just like walked the award out to him. Like it's yours. Like just take it. I saw people was making like a late Murray push. I'm like, he's played in 11 more games than Shai, and he has the same amount of clutch points. What are we doing here?
Yeah. I just think, you've got all the moments this year. It's definitely going to him.
All right, this is just shot in the dark. Like, this doesn't have to be accurate at all. Obviously, it's just a fun prediction. But the Thunder have a lot of possible picks in the draft this year. If you were making a prediction, what picks do the Thunder end up with after the lottery?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, after the lottery, yeah, because they're not getting the Jazz one. That's for sure. The Jazz
Yeah.
have done all they can to keep that one. Yeah, so I mean, the Philly pick is looking pretty good. I mean, it's looking like something that could probably be right outside the lottery, maybe in like that 15, 16, 17 range. So I think that could be potentially one. And then they gave away the Rockets one, and then they have the Clippers one, which would probably be I mean, potentially a lottery if they don't make the play-in, but I think that one at worst will probably be right outside also in that Philly range. So they'll be pretty close to each other, like in the 16, 17, 18 range.
Yeah, I'm just holding out hope that the Clippers just sneaks into the lottery and it's able to like jump up and we're able to get like Cam Booster and everybody just implodes. So that'd be awesome. But obviously, like probably not gonna happen. But talking about Utah real quick, obviously, they made sure we didn't get that pick. And there were reports that apparently we tried to I guess like police how they were tanking. Did you report on that at all? Did you hear anything on that?
Yeah, I didn't report on it. I didn't really hear anything about it. All I can say is I think it's pretty safe to say that OKC is not like, banking on getting that pick. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a very reasonable front office. Obviously, it's a very realistic front office. It's very clear that it's just not going to happen. It's been clear for the past few years as they've avoided, giving up this pick from the Derek Favors trade back in, what was that, like 2020, 2 or 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's been, or no, 24. Sorry, I'm going a little bit too far back. But yeah, I mean, it's been very clear that this is something that probably was going to happen. I think if there was any frustration, it was just over the way that they were doing it. But obviously, Utah has since been fined. So I think that's kind of just the end of that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You heard it here first. Justin Martinez says Tony Jones is full of crap. So no, I'm just kidding. All right. I think this is, last question. How does the Thunder season end? Justin Martinez, resident Spurs fan.
Yeah, I think they won it all, man. I really do. Now, right now, it's looking like it could be a very tough route where potentially they got to face San Antonio and Denver, with Denver being in that 4-5 range, obviously San Antonio being at 2. So it could be a very tough route. But I just think this is a team that, like we talked about earlier, is better equipped this time around. It's got the individual growth of guys. It's got the new additions as well with Jared McCain. And I guess you could even honestly say AJ, just in the sense that he wasn't this version of himself last year, wasn't able to fully get into it after coming off his injuries. So, yeah, I just think they're better equipped to make this run this time around. There's not really like a true Eastern Conference team that I think would give OKC too many problems. Like, I think it'll be Boston as of right now, but I would still pick that to be like a 6-game series. I wouldn't expect Boston to be able to win that one. So, yeah, right now I'm saying that OKC is going to win its second straight title.
I love it. Music to my ears. That's a great way to end the pod. Go out on a high note. Justin, it's been awesome having you here, man. Obviously, interacting back in OKC and then interacting a couple years ago whenever, you contacted me about Nova and, you was very respectful. You were very professional. And hey, you even spelled my name right and, had all your facts right. Like some other news outlets reached out to me then. So I appreciate, your professionalism and, your detail-oriented stuff. But yeah, I want to go ahead and give you the floor, man, as we do our guests. Like, plug anything you want to plug, what you're working on, where folks can find you, anything you want to talk about.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, kind of full circle right now on the pod and stuff. So that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, just, we got the Thunder Buddies podcast every single week with Joe Masato, our columnist, former Thunder beat writer for us. Got some features in the works. Hopefully going to be able to finish a feature on Lou Dort pretty soon, just with the sort of the national narrative that he's this villain of the NBA. It's going to be a chance to kind of learn a little bit more about the type of person that he is off the floor. So that's something in the works. Working on something on J-Dub and just everything he's had to overcome this season with the injuries. And like we were talking about how important of a piece he is going to be for the team during its title push. So a lot of stuff going on as we get ready for some postseason basketball.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Look forward to those profiles. That will be awesome. Definitely tap into Justin's work. Follow him on Twitter at, is it Justin 2 Hoops? Is that what it's
Yeah. So just into hoops, but obviously Justin.
Just into hoops. I get it.
Yeah.
Listen, It's almost midnight here on the East Coast, man. You got to bear with me a little bit. So
Yeah.
I got to be up in 5 hours. But yeah, absolutely. Follow Justin on Twitter, X, if you want to call it that. He's absolutely killing the game as a Thunder beat writer, and we'll forgive him for his Spurs allegiance because he said the Thunder are going to win the title. But with that being said, appreciate you guys for tapping in. The chat was active. Appreciate you guys for listening live or retroactively. Go ahead, like the video, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out when we go, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when we go live. We'll be back on Friday talking about hopefully the Thunder taking down the Los Angeles Lakers and previewing the final 5 games of the season. But until then, y'all have a great night. God bless. Hoop when you can. And as always, Thunder up.